Hello everybody, my name is Manu Vikram Singh and welcome to the series of in-depth news analysis. Today's topic of the day is Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme. Friends, what if you find it out that one day a scheme is there whose 94% of the funds remain unutilized? What if you find out the fact of the CAG report which says that more than 70% of the projects of a scheme is being given to the close associates of the local representatives? And what if you find it out that there have been a construction in unauthorized colony through the authorization of the member of parliament, that too providing a fountain to that area which is not even having the drinking water supply? These all issues have once again divided the political executives on two broad ideologies. On one hand, the government, which has recently suspended the Member of Parliament Local Area Development Program in the name of financial emergency, although technically financial emergency has not been imposed, but still we can find it out that the situation is not very good in the background of COVID. Now the government has suspended the Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme in the background of lack of funds in order to support the fiscal stimulus package which is on the corner right now. So here in the background of the sustainability of Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, we are going to discuss everything you need to know about this MPLAD scheme. If you are calmly watching this video, I promise you, you don't have to read anything about this MPLAD scheme in future also, and you are going to do all the questions of UPSC in a second. So let's start the news. I am going to discuss the news in the background of few highlights of the newspaper. Now, this is the first news of Indian Express which says that how MPLAD scheme works and how far its suspension will help the COVID-19 fight. The second news talks about the business standard, which talks about the MPLAD scheme should be discontinued. Now, there have been various opinions regarding this news, and we are going to discuss everything about this MPLAD scheme. Now, today is 5th of May 2020, and in the editorial, there have been a writing from a professor of IIM which says that MPLADs should not only suspended but also it must go. And here the professor has given a lot of credentials and important substances gathered from the various factual analysis which can help us in understanding whether we should support MPLAD or not. Now, before discussing this editorial, let me tell you something about what today's discussion is all about. Now we'll start with the scheme of MPLAD. Slowly we will shift towards what is the reaction towards suspension, what opposition has to say, and what about the issues which are related with the suspension, why the suspension has been there, and what the editorial of 5th May talks about MPLAD in the Hindu newspaper, and what is the justification given by the Supreme Court. Even the PIL was filed in 2010 about discontinuation of the MPLAD scheme by calling it unconstitutional, but Supreme Court had supported the scheme by saying that it is promoting the rural development. So the justification of the Supreme Court is also going to be discussed, and in the end we'll talk about what should be done in this condition, whether we should continue it or we should eradicate it. And in the closing remarks we'll discuss about the questions of prelims and mains. So that's all about the today's topic of discussion. Everything about MPLAD will be discussed with you. Now, you can see the photograph of P.V. Narasimha Rao, who is the ex-Prime Minister of the country. Now, this MPLAD scheme was introduced in 1993 in order to recommend the development works by the Member of Parliament to create the community assets. Now, what are community assets? Community assets means drinking water or the local roads, or you talk about every kind of infrastructure which is going to support the life of the people. So why Narasimha Rao had announced this policy? Now this policy was framed under Ministry of Rural Development and Planning, but in 1994 this scheme was transferred to Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now you need to know about MOSPI. It is a very important ministry which is related with the results of GDP numbers and various other reports and various surveys which are being conducted in India. Now in 1993, let me go to the history. Why Narasimha Rao had introduced this policy? What was the need of this policy, which is not having any statutory backing? It is only on the government executive action. Why Narasimha Rao had promoted this thing? Because Narasimha Rao was compelled by the political situation. The 1990s condition of India was not at all good. During this period, after the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, there was a political instability in the country. In 1990s, we have already seen that India was gripped in the clutches of balance of payment crisis, where India was not having forex to import even a week of crude oil from other countries. Now, during this period, after the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, even Congress was not able to come out with absolute majority. Congress was a minority government, and in 1992 there was a formation of a coalition government. That means Narasimha Rao was sitting on a coalition which was not very much stable. And there were various demands why the constitutional bodies at that point of time to control the functioning of the government, like T.N. Seshan was the chief election commissioner of India during this period, and he wanted to control the functioning and election criteria of the political executives. So in this background, the current government under the Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao wanted to take the opposition with them in order to not only control the credibility of the political executive, which was in harm from the administrative executive, but also in order to frame some of the most important structural policies like liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So in order to appease the opposition leaders, the Narasimha Rao government has announced MPLAD scheme, which is going to give every MP 5 crore rupees annually, and he is going to recommend the developmental works to the district administration under district magistrate, who is going to implement those policies. Now please understand a fact here. MP role is only to recommend the work to district magistrate, and the implementational strategy will be according to the government policies and provisions. That means here the member of parliament cannot force the methodology. He is only going to recommend the work. The second point is this money is going to be dispersed under member of parliament, but the money will go into the account of local self-governing institutions, local bodies. Here MP account is not going to be credited with the amount of 5 crore rupees. Here the MP role is only to find out the developmental loopholes and deficits and recommend the developmental works in order to create the community asset by 5 crore rupees annually. So this is all about the MPLAD scheme. Now in order to take the encouragement from this MPLAD scheme, many states have announced MLA-LAD schemes, and here the policies and the provisions vary from state to state. But for MPLAD scheme there is one policy which is framed by the government of India. As I said that it is only a policy, it is not having any statutory backing. So anytime when a government can suspend and eradicate, even close the policy of MPLAD. Now, how much will the suspension is going to contribute to the centre's effort to manage the pandemic of COVID? It is being estimated that around 7,800 crore rupee will be available to the government, which is close to 4.5% of 1.7 lakh crore rupees, which the government had created the first stimulus package in the name of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Now, why the suspension is not good? The opposition parties and the opposition leaders are criticizing. They are saying that it is selectively targeting the opposition leaders because the member of parliament has got the power to implement 5 crore rupees annually. Here, they don't have to take the permission from the government of India. If you are suspending the policies, the opposition member of parliament will not have any fund to disperse. The same thing for the development of the local areas. And the state governments like Kerala is again saying that it is an unfederal structure because the member of parliament money can be utilized very efficiently for preparing the states in order to fight against the COVID. So certainly surely it is not a good initiative in the eyes of the opposition leaders. Few leaders are saying that it is going to centralize the administration because you know center is trying to stop the dispersion of funds, so thereby center will have more funds and there will be more centralization. The decentralized work which is being done by the member of parliament in the local areas will not be able to done, and here it is going to centralize the administration and decrease the efficiency of dispersal because grassroots areas require autonomy. If you're not going to give them with the autonomy, they are going to suffer. Every time they will have to depend with the center in order to disperse the fund, which will take time and which is certainly going to delay the activities of the local areas. Now, as I said that the parties are divided into two fronts. What are the issues associated with MPLAD scheme? It is a breach of federalism. Now, the people who are opposing the MPLAD scheme, they are saying that it is breaching federalism because the 7th schedule of the constitution very categorically divides the role of governance between center, state and the local bodies. Now, what is happening here? Sorry, center and state, not the local bodies. Local bodies work come under schedule 11 and 12. Now, when the federalism, which is institutionalized through the 7th schedule, MPs are interfering in the areas of the state and the local bodies. Local bodies have got the constitutional recognition from 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. That means it also violates Part 11 and Part 9 and Part 9A of the Constitution. That means not only it breaches the federalism, but also it breaches the role of the local self-government institutions. Now, it is in conflict with the separation of powers also. Why? Because a political executive whose role is in policy making, he is also playing an important role in policy implementation here. Policy implementation is not the role of the political executive. It is the role of the administrative executive, which in the district administration is district magistrate. Due to the MPLAD scheme, the political executives are interfering in the role of the administrative executives, and that is also not good in the eyes of constitution. When I talk about law, MPLAD scheme is just an executive body scheme. It is not having any statutory backing, and even the National Commission to Review the Constitution in 2002 recommended to discontinue the MPLAD scheme as it is against the federal structure of the Constitution. It was further concurred by the Second Administrative Reforms Commission report in 2007. That means these are two important administrative reports which should be kept in mind. Yes, so in this background, let us discuss what the editorial of Hindu newspaper on 5th of May talks about. What editorial says? It talks about that completely this MPLAD scheme should be abolished completely, and due to the following reasons. First is it is against the separation of powers, as we had already discussed. It gives an executive function to the legislatures. The second point is the CAG of India report, which is a very authentic and credible report, which talks about that there are 78% of the works which are recommended under MPLAD scheme are the improvement of the existing assets. When I talk about the MPLAD scheme, it talks about creating only assets. It does not talk about the improvement of the existing assets. That means it talks about creation of new assets. Now, what 78% of the works are doing, they are just improving of the existing access. There is no accountability of expenditure in terms of quality and quantity. These are the two standards parameters of accountability. Now, since the expenditure is being done and there is no accountability based on quality and quantity, the CAG report criticizes the role of the MPLAD scheme in the development of the democratic India. Now, there had been delays in issuing the work orders. That means most of the works have not got approval within 45 days of the receipt of the recommendation by MP. When I talk about the scheme, it says that within the 45 days, the receipt of recommendation of MP, the work should start functioning, but it is not doing in 57% of the cases. When I talk about the registry of the cases, until I have the registry of the assets, I cannot know, I cannot enforce the parameters of accountability there. Though certainly here in this case, neither the location nor the existence of assets are known, neither they are verified, and that is why it is becoming extremely difficult to verify the accountability. Out of the total funds, only out of the total funds and the total MPs, when I talk about, 94% of the MPs were not successful within 4 years to utilize the complete amount of MPLAD scheme. Only 35 MPs of the Lok Sabha utilize the entire amount of MPLAD. Let me talk about an important point here about MPLAD, which is, it says that for the Lok Sabha member of parliament, they have to initiate the work within their constituency. When I talk about the Rajya Sabha MP, they have to initiate work within their state. When I talk about the nominated members of both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, they can initiate work in any area around India. So we have found out that around 94% of the MP failed to utilize the complete amount which has been allocated between 2014 to 2018. And there is one more important fact which goes against the continuation of this MPLAD scheme, that most of the schemes, what of the projects are there to appease or oblige the two sets of people. One, opinion makers or opinion influencers, or the favorite contractors. It was being found out that the favorite contractors are getting the contract in the MPLADs to construct certain assets. Yes, so there is a presence of corruption, there is a presence of appeasement also. When I talk about the legality or constitutionality, there have been various petitions in 2000, 2003, 2004 and 2005, and finally the Supreme Court has cleared its position in 2010. Now Supreme Court is saying that a lot of projects have been approved under it, so that is why we should not discontinue. Here the writer talks about the fact that apart from quantity, we should also look for quality, whether it is creating quality in the local areas or not. So the Supreme Court judgment was more about the quantity, how many number of schemes have been approved. It is not talking how many number of projects have been approved. It is not talking about the quality of the assets, whether you are creating new assets or you are just trying to, maintain the existing assets. Now what the court said, a very important fact in 2006. It said that Indian constitution does not recognize a strict separation of power. There are checks and balances. Like for example, even a Supreme Court can frame a law. Like for example, the Nirbhaya case, or for example, we can talk about the police reforms, or we can even talk about the Vishakha guidelines, which is the role of the legislature. Yes, even the legislature is going to set up the tribunals, which is the role of judiciary. Yes, so when you see that there is no strict separation of power, you should not underline the fact that political executive is entering the area of the administrative executive, which is against the strict separation of power. It should not be recognized because we don't have watertight separation of power. There is some overlapping between the various organs of the government, and enough the MPs have been given seemingly executive function. Their role is limited to recommending the works and the local authorities actually implementation. That means here the Supreme Court is saying that the role of MP is only to recommend and the local authorities are going to implement the same thing. That means there is no problem. Implementation is in the hand of the local authorities. It depends on the local authorities how they are going to secure their autonomy. So, apart from the scheme says only that the recommendation should be done by the member of parliament. Implementation should be done by the district magistrate. But the court failed to recognize the fact, the important fact, which is yes, the political executive is entering in the area of the administrative executive. Now, what should be done? Any discussion should talk about the suggestion. What should be done? Accountability through transparency. Why not? There should be proper registering of the assets. There should be proper verification of the assets. When you ensure the transparency, automatically accountability can be ensured. Lapsability of the fund. Currently, MPLAD is non-lapsable. That means if some amount is not utilized, it will add up to the upcoming year account, which has increased the money to 7800 crore. That means 7,800 crore rupee, which is lying there in MPLAD scheme. So it should be lapsable. If I make a fund lapsable, it will automatically promote performance. Here the member of parliament will automatically trying to create certain assets, as we have seen that 94% of the MPs within 4 years fail to utilize the complete money because they know it is non-lapsable. If it becomes lapsable, automatically they will try to work towards improving the assets of the local areas. There should be some statutory status with clear guidelines, with clear delineation of the roles and responsibilities between the various organs of the government, where the role of MP should be only to recommend and the role of administration is to implement the policy. There should not be any kind of interference in the role of each other boundary. There should be involvement of the local stakeholders through committees which should have a multi-stakeholder partnership like state government and also the local self-governing institutions like panchayats and municipalities. And the most important fact of the day is there should be a moral responsibility on the MPs. That means they have to play a very sacrosanct role. They should ensure that the money is going to the needy. They're going to create certain assets which is going to make the people life easier. If you improve the drinking water facility in an area, it is going to make that area's life better, not only today, for the coming generations also. So there is a moral responsibility on the member of parliament to very properly understand the need of MPLAD scheme and ensure the effective implementation of that scheme. So that's all about the discussion. As I said, as I promised, that you will know everything about the scheme if you are going to watch this video. Now, based on the topic of discussion, let us see certain questions which can be asked in UPSC. Now, the question of the day is, which of the following statements regarding MPLAD scheme is correct? It is a statutory body implemented to decentralize the development work by MPs. Second statement, it is a non-lapsable scheme. Third, the funds under MPLAD cannot be utilized in the subjects related to state list or local self-government institution. Fourth, the district magistrate is the implementation authority of this scheme as per the financial, technical and administrative rules set up by the member of parliament. Fifth, MPs and MLAs do not receive any money under this scheme. The government transfers it directly to the respective local government. You have to answer this question in the comment box. This is your moral responsibility to comment the answers and make me realize that yes, you learned something from this discussion. Now, the main question of the day is, MPLAD scheme is flooded with the vices of corruption, favoritism, lack of accountability, erosion of constitutional philosophy. Critically evaluate. That means here the statement is highly critical about the MPLAD scheme, which says that it is full of corruption, favoritism, lack of accountability and erosion of constitutional philosophy. You have to write the answer in these 4 points, but you have to evaluate. That means till now we had discussed only about the loopholes in MPLAD scheme, but there are certain silver linings also about the MPLAD scheme which I have mentioned here. The positive impact is in 2018, when the continuation of the scheme was improved, the government noted that the entire population across the country stands to be benefited from this scheme in various areas like drinking water, education, public health, sanitation, roads, etc. Until 2017, 19 lakh projects of 45,000 crore rupees have been sanctioned under the MPLAD scheme. Third party evaluator appointed by the government reported creation of good quality assets have a positive impact on the local economy and social fabric and feasibility of the environment. Further, 82% of the projects have been in rural areas and remaining urban and semi-urban areas. That means rural transformation depends on MP-LAD scheme. Recently, the government had framed Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana SA Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana SAGY, where you have to develop the model villages, and it has been said that the money of MPLAD can be utilized to develop the model villages. That means not all is bad about the MPLAD scheme, but the logic is, as I said, that there should be accountability and there is a need of moral responsibility. We should make the fund lapsable and ensure that the money is utilized within the financial year. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share, subscribe and comment, and we'll meet again if I find out some burning topic. Till then, goodbye, take care.